April does not wait. Most gardeners know this. They've read it, they've heard it, and every year they still find themselves standing at a garden center in late April with a cart full of expensive seedlings and a wallet that didn't plan for it. Here's the truth. You do not need to spend anything to get a productive vegetable garden in the ground this month. Not because there's some trick involved, not because free gardening is some internet hack worth 10 seconds of your attention, but because most of what a vegetable garden actually needs is already sitting in your home, in your kitchen, in your recycling bin, and in your yard. This video is about the $0 garden system. It uses 3 layers: a soil building base from materials you already have, simple infrastructure you can build from things most people throw away, and a seed starting approach built around kitchen scraps that goes well beyond the basics you've probably seen before. We are going to move through each layer methodically. By the end, you will have everything you need to put food in the ground this weekend without spending a dime. Let's start with the ground itself. The first obstacle most new gardeners run into isn't seeds or watering or pest management, it's the soil. A bag of quality garden soil runs between $12 and $20. A cubic yard of compost from a landscape supplier runs $50 to $80. If you're starting from scratch on a lawn or a compacted patch of ground, the instinct is to buy your way to a clean slate. You don't need to. Sheet mulching, also called lasagna gardening, is a method that has been used for decades by serious food growers. It builds soil in place, it kills grass and weeds without chemicals, and the primary material it requires is cardboard. Not specialty cardboard, not treated or waxed cardboard, plain brown cardboard boxes, the kind your last online order arrived in. Here is how it works. You start by mowing or cutting down whatever is growing in the area you want to convert. Don't dig it up, don't till it. Leave the organic material in place. It will decompose and contribute to the soil below. Next, water the area thoroughly. You want the ground damp before you lay anything down. Then you lay your cardboard directly on top, overlapping each piece by at least 6 inches. This is important. Any gap is a path for weeds to come through. Remove any tape or staples first. Those don't break down and will surface later. Water the cardboard again once it's laid. You want it saturated. And if you don't have any cardboard laying around, go to any Walmart or grocery store and ask if you can get a cart full of broken down boxes. I've done this 20 times and never was denied boxes. On top of the cardboard, you build your planting layer. This is where the majority of your plant roots will live, especially in the first season. You want at least 6 inches of organic material, ideally more. Compost is ideal, but you can also use aged leaves, grass clippings that haven't been treated with herbicide, wood chips from a tree service, or a combination of all of these. Many municipalities offer free compost pickup or delivery. Many tree services will drop a load of wood chips at your property for free because it saves them a disposal fee. These are worth a phone call before you consider buying anything. The cardboard underneath will break down within 1 season. As it does, it draws earthworms up from below. Those worms work through both the cardboard layer and the organic material you've placed on top, creating a living soil structure that improves every year. For spring planting, this method works best for transplants, seedlings you've already grown, or plants you're starting from scraps, which we'll cover in layer 3. Direct seeding into a freshly built sheet mulch bed is possible, but works better once the top layer has had a few weeks to settle and the cardboard has begun to soften. If you want to direct sow immediately, make planting pockets by pushing the organic material aside, cutting an X into the cardboard, and placing your seed directly into the soil below with a handful of compost on top. The roots will find their way down through the softening cardboard within weeks. This is your foundation. It costs nothing. April in most growing regions is a transitional month. Nights can still drop below freezing. A late frost will take out unprotected seedlings. The standard solution is row cover fabric, cold frames, or plastic cloches, all of which cost money. The functional solution for a single plant or a small number of seedlings is a plastic milk jug from your recycling bin. Cut the bottom off cleanly. Remove the cap to allow ventilation during the day when temperatures rise. Place it over your transplant and press the cut edge into the soil slightly so it doesn't blow over. That's a cloche. It functions identically to a purchased plastic bell cloche. It traps heat overnight, creates a slightly warmer microclimate around the plant, and protects against light frost. When you're finished with it for the season, it stores flat or can be reused next year. Larger jugs, the 1-gallon and the 2-gallon, work for more established seedlings. For smaller seedlings, a 2-liter bottle with the bottom removed works the same way. The second piece of free infrastructure is a seed starting tray. Egg cartons are the most common version of this, and they work well for a reason. The individual cells are the right depth for starting most vegetable seeds. The cardboard holds moisture without becoming waterlogged, and when your seedlings are ready to transplant, you can plant the individual cells directly into the ground. The cardboard breaks down without disturbing the roots. Egg cartons are specifically suited for crops where you want to start multiple seedlings and then thin to the strongest. Lettuce, kale, chard, herbs, and brassicas all do well. For larger seeds, squash, cucumbers, beans, you want a deeper container. Paper cups work. Toilet paper tubes stood upright in a tray work. The goal is simply to give the roots enough depth to develop before transplanting. For drainage, poke several holes in the bottom of whatever container you're using. Place your containers in a shallow tray, another repurposed container, so excess water drains, and you can bottom water without overwatering from above. This infrastructure setup costs nothing and handles the early weeks of the season until your plants are established enough to go into the ground. This is where most gardeners stop short. They've heard that you can regrow green onions in a glass of water, or that a sweet potato will vine out from a jar, and both of those things are true. But the full picture of what you can grow from kitchen scraps, and how to do it correctly, is much more useful than the abbreviated version that circulates online. Here's a working list of what you can realistically grow from scraps this April, and how to approach each one. Green onions. Cut the green tops off, leaving the white root end with at least an inch of stem attached. Place root end down in a shallow glass with enough water to cover the roots, but not the stem. Set it in a window with good light. You will see new growth within a day or two. Once the new growth is 3 to 4 inches tall, you can either continue harvesting from the water or transplant into soil. Transplanting gives you a more productive long-term plant. Green onions grown in soil will continue producing for months with minimal attention. This works with the root ends of store-bought green onions, leeks, and shallots. Next up is celery. Cut the base off your celery bunch, leaving about 2 inches of the base intact. Place it cut side up in a shallow dish with about an inch of water covering the base. Set it in a bright window. Within a week, you will see small, pale leaves beginning to emerge from the center. These are new celery leaves. Within 2 weeks, small root nubs will appear around the base. At this point, transplant the base into soil with just the new growth above the surface. Celery is a slow grower and will not produce full-size stalks quickly from a scrap start, but it will produce consistently through the season and provides a steady supply of celery leaves, which are flavorful and underused, and eventually small usable stalks. Potatoes. Any potato that has developed growth nodes, the small indented sprout points on the surface, can be planted. You do not need to wait for the sprouts to be long. If the growth nodes are visible and firm, the potato is ready to plant. Cut larger potatoes into sections, making sure each section has at least one growth node and ideally 2. Let the cut surfaces dry for a day or 2 before planting. This is called curing the cut, and it prevents the exposed flesh from rotting in the soil before the plant establishes. Plant the sections about 3 inches deep with the growth nodes facing up, spaced 12 inches apart. Potatoes are forgiving of late frost at this depth and will emerge when the soil is ready. Do not plant potatoes from the grocery store that have been treated with a sprout inhibitor. These are sprayed to extend shelf life and will not grow reliably. Look for potatoes that have sprouted on their own. Those have not been inhibited and are viable. Garlic. If you have a head of garlic that has begun to sprout green shoots from the top of the cloves, those cloves are viable for planting. Separate the cloves and plant them pointed end up, about 2 inches deep and 6 inches apart. Garlic planted in April will not produce full bulbs this season. Garlic planted in spring typically produces by midsummer, and the bulbs will be smaller than fall-planted garlic. But you will get usable garlic greens, also called garlic scapes, from hardneck varieties throughout the growing season, and you will have bulbs to harvest, even if they're on the smaller side. Sweet potatoes. A sweet potato with visible sprouts, called slips, can be used to grow new plants. If your sweet potato hasn't sprouted yet, you can encourage it by placing it halfway submerged in a jar of water in a warm, sunny window. Once the slips are 3 to 4 inches long with visible root development at their base, twist or cut them free from the sweet potato and place them in water until the roots develop further. Transplant into soil after your last frost date. Sweet potatoes need a long growing season, typically 90 to 120 days. So starting slips now in April gives you enough lead time for most growing zones. Ginger and turmeric. Fresh ginger or turmeric root from the grocery store will grow if it has visible growth nodes, small bumps or slightly lighter colored areas on the surface of the root. Break or cut sections apart so each piece has at least one node. Plant in a container or in the ground about an inch deep. Both prefer warmth and partial shade, making them well suited to spots in the garden that don't get full sun all day. Ginger takes several months to mature, but the leaves are edible and the plant itself is attractive. You can harvest small pieces of root once the plant is established without pulling the whole plant. Beans from saved seed. If you have dried beans in your kitchen, pinto, black, kidney, navy, or any other variety sold for cooking, a portion of them are viable seed. April is the right time to direct sow beans outdoors once your soil has warmed to at least 60 degrees, which in most zones happens mid to late April. Test your beans before committing a full planting to them. Place 10 beans between 2 damp paper towels, fold it over, and leave it in a warm spot for 3 to 5 days. Count how many germinate. If 7 or more sprout, your germination rate is strong enough to plant directly. If fewer than 5 sprout, the beans may be too old or have been stored in conditions that reduced viability. Sow viable beans 1 inch deep and 4 to 6 inches apart in rows or blocks. They do not need to be started indoors. Beans do not transplant well and prefer to be direct sown where they will grow. They will germinate within a week to 10 days in warm soil. One practical note: not all dried cooking beans are equal for this purpose. Beans that have been steam treated or irradiated for food safety will not germinate. If your beans failed the paper towel test entirely, that is likely the reason. Beans from a natural food store or a bulk bin are more likely to be untreated and viable than beans from a standard grocery store shelf. Lettuce and herbs from stems. Many grocery store herb bunches, cilantro, basil, mint, will root in water if the stems are fresh enough. Cut the lower leaves off the bottom inch of the stem, place in water, and set in a bright window. Change the water every 2 days. Basil and mint root reliably. Cilantro is less consistent but worth trying. Once roots are an inch or more long, transplant into soil. Lettuce from the grocery store, the kind sold with the root base still attached, will regrow from the base the same way as celery. It won't produce a full head, but it will produce enough loose leaves for regular harvesting over several weeks. You now have everything you need. Day 1. Gather your cardboard, water your site, and lay your sheet mulch base. While that's settling, set up your kitchen scrap regrowths. Green onion roots in water, celery base in a dish, any sprouted potatoes curing on a tray. Day 2. Set up your egg carton seed trays for any seeds you're starting from scratch, and prepare your milk jug cloches for any transplants you're putting directly into the ground. Day 3. Plant. The window is open. The cost is zero. What you have in your house right now is sufficient to start a productive garden this month. That is not a promise conditional on perfect weather or a generous budget. It is a system that has worked for serious food growers for a long time. April is the deadline. You're already prepared. If you've used any of these methods before, or if you're trying one for the first time this weekend, leave a comment. I want to know what's going in the ground. If you want to go deeper on the kitchen scrap side of this, my video on regrowing 7 vegetables from kitchen scraps is a good next step. And it's on the screen now. I'll see you over there.